Surely, somewhere deep down in the hearts of every American, there remains a belief that the American dream is real. As long as one works hard and perseveres, everyone will have the opportunity to rise up and live a decent life. But the footage you're about to see might make you question everything, even the beliefs you once held onto with all your heart.
More jobs! While I'm in college in rural Tennessee and I can barely pay my own rent, and I'm taking 19 credit hours on top of those 4 jobs.
They want to push these people out because apartments are going to be so high, they're not going to be able to afford it.
You have a master's degree.
I do.
And other education.
I do.
And you're out on the streets.
I am.
You're downtown asking people for money just so you could eat. And you watch them in that hurry to go home. And you realize you have nowhere to go to.
The American dream is gradually becoming a luxury for anyone who dreams of it. How can a nation that prides itself on human rights, justice, and compassion allow millions of its citizens, including veterans, women, children, and the elderly, to live aimlessly on the sidewalks without a roof over their heads or even without a future? In today's video, we'll uncover the painful truth behind the homelessness crisis in the 10 largest states in America. With raw, unfiltered footage and hidden stories of people society is slowly forgetting. As usual, this is not a pessimistic warning, but a perspective reflected from multiple sources to help the community understand better and prepare proactively. Are you ready to explore the dark side in the first state? Let's get started right now. New York, the immortal symbol of the American dream. A place where everyone believes that as long as you try, dare to dream big, and never give up, anything can become a reality. But if you come here today, if you stand in the middle of Times Square, then step down to the subway level, or simply walk down any street, what you see is no longer a dream, but rather the shocking reality of a homelessness crisis silently suffocating this city. As of the beginning of this year, New York has more than 350,000 people without a permanent place to live. A number too large for any city, let alone a place once considered the gateway to the land of opportunity. But what worries people even more is the increasing number of elderly homeless individuals each year.
I'm 60 years old. I worked 35 years. I'm a college graduate. I have no record. I have never been arrested or accused of anything, and I sleep on the sidewalk.
They are educated individuals who dedicated their lives to society, once had homes, raised children, and believed that in their old age, they would live peaceful years. But in the end, where they end up is a makeshift hut on the sidewalk or a stone bench in the park, where the night chill seeps through their thin, patched-up clothes and their hope is slowly cracking. Every day, you will see the dilapidated shanties rising up like wounds that cannot be hidden in the heart of the city. Trash is scattered. The stench of waste rises pungently in the streets that were once destinations for millions of tourists. This is not an urban incident. It is a clear sign that a system can no longer protect its most vulnerable people. So what is the cause of this major crisis? Just look at the rental prices and you'll understand. The average rent in New York City has reached $4,000 per month. In Manhattan, this figure reaches $6,000, nearly 3 times the average income, ready to swallow the entire dream of American workers. The apartments that used to rent for $800 to $1,200 per month in the Bronx, Harlem, or Queens, once a refuge for retirees, immigrants, and low-income workers, have gradually disappeared due to urbanization and real estate speculation. What remains for those who cannot keep up with the pace of investors is the sight of wandering and tattered tents. Not only housing prices, even essential items like eggs, one of the staple foods of the poor, have now risen to $12.49 a dozen. You can call it inflation. But for those living on Social Security, this is the final sentence. New York is still glamorous, still dazzling, but only for those who can afford it. As for the others, those who lack the strength to leave and have nowhere else to go, their fate is merely a cold corner of the sidewalk to try to survive through the night. New York once promised to give everyone a fresh start, but now it is causing tens of thousands of people to start over from a negative balance. If even the heart of America allows those who once built it to struggle for survival under the lights of Times Square, then where in this country can save them? But New York is just the first chapter of a long story. Because if you think everything there is already bad, then look to the other side of the country. In California, once dubbed the sunny paradise and the Hollywood dream, what is happening is even more bleak, cold, and stark. If you ever set foot in California in the 70s, you probably wouldn't recognize it anymore. The sun still rises over the golden beaches and the wide roads are still filled with light. But beneath that glamorous facade lies a reality quietly gnawing at the state once dubbed the Promised Land. A homelessness crisis swelling like a ticking time bomb with no clear end in sight. California currently has over 180,000 homeless people, accounting for nearly 1/3 of the entire United States. In the city of Los Angeles alone, that number has exceeded 75,000 people, increasing by nearly 10% each year. Those seemingly unfamiliar and cold numbers actually bear the faces of very real people. A young mother quietly sings a lullaby while holding her child in the midst of a bustling street. A former construction worker sat with his head down next to a handwritten sign. "I worked all my life. I never thought I'd end up here." The most painful thing is not their presence, but how society has gradually become accustomed to that presence. People walk past them every day as if they are a part of the urban landscape. But not everyone starts at rock bottom. Most of the homeless people in California once had homes, jobs, and paid taxes. They are not the lazy people that societal prejudice imposes. They were once the pillars in factories, construction sites, and offices, who believed that if they worked hard, they would be fine. And then the gears of the machine gradually veered off their original course.
I just couldn't pay the rent anymore. We just ended up sleeping in the car, thinking it was only going to be temporary.
A sickness, a job lost after the pandemic, a rent increase from $1,200 to $3,500 per month. Then one day they had to stuff their entire lives into a suitcase and sleep in their car or under the awning of a supermarket. Even the middle class, who were once considered safe, are no longer immune. With rental prices in Los Angeles and San Francisco among the highest in the United States, it's no longer uncommon for someone working full-time to still have to live in shelters. And when the sun sets, long lines of makeshift tents appear on the sidewalks like weeds sprouting after the rain. A silent warning of a system that is gradually becoming unable to support the vulnerable in society. But why would a wealthy place like California let this happen? The answer lies in the overlap between helplessness and indifference. Affordable housing construction programs are endlessly prolonged due to cumbersome administrative procedures and opposition from residents. Some areas have regulations prohibiting the setting up of homeless camps near residential areas, pushing the poor further away, out of sight. California used to be a symbol of hope, opportunity, and freedom. Now, it reflects a future where no one is guaranteed safety, no matter how hard you work. A future where becoming homeless is no longer the misfortune of others, but a potential risk for anyone. So, if even California, once the dream of countless generations, can no longer protect its own people, where will the rest of America go? There is a strange feeling when walking along the streets of Portland, the capital of Oregon. Not because of the scenery, but because of the silence. A type of silence that can only be heard in places where sorrow has seeped into every wall, every footstep passing by. Beneath the lush green trees and the ancient architecture, there are images of dozens, hundreds of makeshift tents set up along the roadside. They have no addresses, no house numbers, but they are the final refuge for people who once lived like any of us. Oregon has ranked among the states with the highest rates of homelessness in the United States for many years. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. The issue in Oregon is not just how many people lost their homes, but rather, it is the fact that they have lost faith in the government, in the system, in the promise that we will not leave anyone behind. Here, people once thought that Portland was a city with open doors for those in need of help. But when the wave of unemployment hit after the pandemic, many people lost their jobs with just a phone call. Then the bills piled up, rent skyrocketed, and before they could understand what was happening, they found themselves on a waiting list for public housing that stretched for years. A paradox is unfolding in Oregon. The state has poured billions into homeless support programs, yet the number of people living on the streets continues to rise. So where does the problem lie? Resources are dispersed, many programs are paralyzed by complex procedures, lack of personnel, or simply unable to respond to the rapidly changing reality. In the heart of glamorous America, you will encounter no few elderly people wandering the sidewalks. Those who once had stable jobs, who once struggled to raise their children and provide them with an education, who once believed they would have a peaceful old age. But the rapid pace of current events has caused prices to soar to suffocating levels, while the job market coldly pushes them out of the game, making way for more talented young people. And so they are left behind. An elderly man around 55 years old shared, "I don't know how to use a computer. They told me I have to submit the application online. I don't know where to start. So I slept on the street." It's not that they don't want to change, but they don't know where to start in a world that has changed too quickly for them. If California astonishes people with the scale of its crisis, then Oregon breaks hearts with the way kind, quiet people, who were once the pillars of society, are gradually consumed without anyone noticing. How many people around us are also on the brink? Just one bill, one accident, or one job loss away from becoming completely invisible. If there is a place once dubbed the heart of innovation in America, it is Washington. The land of Microsoft, Amazon, of tech dreams and limitless opportunities. But amidst the skyscrapers of Seattle and the hustle of the billion-dollar economy, a completely contrasting image emerges. People sleeping on the sidewalks, huddled under plastic tarps, right in front of the headquarters of the world's wealthiest corporations. Washington has one of the most well-intentioned homeless support systems in the United States. But that goodwill is not enough to fill the gaps left by this crisis. When rental prices skyrocket and full-time jobs are no longer enough to live on, even humanity is pushed to its limits. A one-bedroom apartment in downtown Seattle can cost up to $2,500 a month, an unimaginable figure for low-income individuals, and even more impossible for those on the brink of collapse. In many cases, the collapse doesn't start with a major event. It starts with very small things: an unexpected illness, an unaffordable medical bill, a cut in work hours, and then a month without enough rent money. Everything fell apart in just a few weeks. People never think they will become homeless until they become part of that story. A woman in her 60s whom we met in Tacoma recounted, "I worked as an accountant for over 30 years. When the company went bankrupt after COVID, I lived off my meager savings. When it ran out, I applied for assistance, but was denied because I didn't meet the requirements. Now, I live in my car." Washington is not short on money, but it seems to lack an understanding of the story that a civilized society cannot leave the people who built it abandoned on the streets. When the pillars of the community are gradually being pushed to the brink of the abyss, we must ask ourselves, how much technological progress is enough if the price to pay is the invisibility of tens of thousands of people? Arizona, a name that evokes sun-baked deserts, stunning landscapes, and a land once considered a retirement paradise for the elderly. But beneath that brilliant sun, a shadow of despair called homelessness is gradually spreading beyond control. In Arizona, summer is not a time for vacation. It is a life or death season for those without shelter. The temperature in Phoenix, the largest city in the state, can reach up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and not everyone survives that summer if they keep wandering the streets. It won't be hard for you to come across people lying around outside or in tents melted by the desert sun. But what makes people feel the most sorrow is not the heat, but it's the way these people are perceived, as if they chose that difficult life themselves. While the truth is quite the opposite. A large number of homeless people in Arizona are elderly, retired with meager pensions, or were once homeowners but were evicted due to insufficient funds for taxes or maintenance. What's more, Arizona is not lacking in vacant land. The suburbs around Phoenix and Tucson still have a lot of undeveloped land. However, the zoning policies prioritize high-end commercial real estate projects instead of affordable housing. Cheap housing is seen as devaluing residential areas and causing disturbances to public order. The consequence: thousands of people are crammed into temporary camps where sanitary conditions are terrible, with no electricity, no water, and no hope. The government has support programs, but like in other states, the convoluted processes and trickling budgets prevent most people in need from accessing them. And when those who once fought for the nation, who labored their entire lives, are forced to live outdoors in the heat that could scorch someone's life, what ultimately have those sacrifices been worth? Nevada, a name synonymous with the dazzling lights of Las Vegas, the sleepless casinos, and the dream of a life-changing night. But just behind the glamorous hotels lies a harsh reality that tourists rarely see. A city that shines brightly at night but becomes chillingly desolate when you have no roof over your head. Nevada currently ranks 10th nationwide in homelessness rates, with about 32 homeless individuals per 10,000 residents. And Las Vegas, the city of lights, is actually the center of that darkness. No one goes to Vegas to see the hundreds of tents stretched along the streets behind the Strip, or the mole people huddled in the underground sewage system where they take refuge from the scorching daytime heat and the bone-chilling nighttime cold. The Las Vegas authorities once had many programs like Housing First, prioritizing getting homeless people into homes before addressing other issues. But resources always fall short of the enormous demand. The elderly, those not tech-savvy, and those with criminal records, they are the last to be left behind. Meanwhile, urban management policies focus on cleaning up the streets to avoid affecting the tourism image, meaning dismantling tents, confiscating property, and even imposing fines on those sleeping outdoors. There's something wrong when the city spends billions to host sports events, exhibitions, or build new casinos, yet allows those who once served the industry to sleep in the gutters. And what haunts people the most? It's not the sight of them sleeping on the sidewalk, but the callous eyes of others as they walk by, as if they are no longer a part of this society. Is it possible that the brighter the dazzling lights of those luxurious casinos, the deeper and colder the shadow of indifference becomes? Illinois, with its center in the city of Chicago, a symbol once dubbed the Windy City, full of opportunities, a gathering place for the American dream, is now witnessing an increasingly serious situation of homelessness. The wide streets, the majestic skyscrapers, can no longer hide the dark corners where people struggle with homelessness. Chicago currently has over 60,000 homeless people, and this number continues to rise each year. They are not just the unemployed or those who have recently fallen into hardship, but also the elderly, the mentally ill, and many veterans, those who once served the country but are now forgotten by society. Here, one can see makeshift tents set up along the roadside, people sleeping on park benches or under overpasses, sheltered by tattered tarps. A heartbreaking reality is that rental prices in Chicago, although not as high as those in West Coast cities, are still rising faster than the incomes of many blue-collar workers. The minimum wage is not enough to ensure a basic standard of living. Support policies such as housing subsidies and free medical care often come with complex procedures and long waiting times, making it difficult for many people in distress to access them in a timely manner. Can Chicago keep its heart when most of its people are struggling with isolation and poverty? And what will we, this society, do to not abandon other citizens who are drowning in darkness? The city of Philadelphia, the economic and cultural center of the state, is facing an increasing number of homeless individuals, figures and images that few want to see, but are an undeniable reality. Unlike many other cities, where the homeless are often hidden or pushed away from residential areas. In Philadelphia, the sight of people sleeping on sidewalks, in parks, or in public spaces has become so common that it is unavoidable. Makeshift tents sprout like scars on the once peaceful urban landscape. You may have heard about the number of over 15,000 homeless people statewide, but this number doesn't capture the stories behind each life, each face, each unfortunate circumstance. What is noteworthy in Pennsylvania is the stark division between social classes. A large portion of the homeless are not completely unemployed. They are low-wage workers who still have jobs but cannot afford the ever-increasing cost of living. Rent prices are rising rapidly, while incomes are not keeping pace, forcing many families to give up their homes. The social support system, although present, is complex, convoluted, and often inaccessible in a timely manner for those who need it most. Pennsylvania today is a profound wake-up call for all of America. Behind the prosperity and the skyscrapers, there are still people struggling to hold on to every breath, every small piece of land they call home. So, when the city lights dim, what can we do to ensure those people do not disappear from the eyes and hearts of society? Is it time for us to reevaluate how society distributes opportunities and assistance? Pennsylvania, a part of the soul of America, is waiting for an answer. Texas, the vast land with sprawling fields and bustling cities, once a symbol of freedom and opportunity, today is not immune to the cracks of the homelessness crisis that is spreading quietly yet intensely. In major cities like Houston, Dallas, or Austin, shadows of people silently drift by on the sidewalks, under the elevated highways, carrying untold stories of a life full of hardship and instability. Unlike other places, Texas is where the image of homelessness is not confined to poor neighborhoods, but has seeped into central areas, once considered symbols of prosperity. Housing prices, although lower than in some other states, are still rising rapidly and exceeding the affordability of many people, especially low-income workers and retirees. They are the ones who have dedicated their entire lives to work, now facing the risk of losing their beloved homes. The support system in Texas also faces many difficulties, from fund allocation to complex procedures that leave many people trapped in a cycle of homelessness with no way out. Welfare programs, although designed to help, are not fast enough and do not reach the right places or the right people. Amid the vast streets and dazzling neon lights, shadows of people are still silently fighting to survive. Will Texas choose a way to leave no one behind? Will the dream of freedom still be the guiding light for everyone? Or is it just a distant halo reserved for a select few? Florida, the land of sunshine, sprawling beaches, and the dream retirement image for millions. But behind that glamorous facade lies a harsh reality that few want to confront. The homelessness crisis is increasingly spreading and embedding itself in every corner of this state. It's no longer the story of strangers in some distant city, but a familiar tale that could happen to any one of us. The number of over 27,000 homeless people in Florida is not just a cold statistic, but also lives struggling every day with the worry of not having a place to sleep or enough food to eat. In Miami, Where rental prices have exceeded $2,500 for a small apartment, many people have to choose between paying rent or buying food. Luxury resorts and hotels are popping up everywhere, while just outside, makeshift tents and old cars serve as shelters for countless people with no other options. Many people once thought Florida would be a peaceful destination in their old age, but in reality, it has plunged them into the precarious cycle of homelessness, especially among the elderly. They have to face rising medical costs, loss of support, and often find themselves abandoned in a complex welfare system that they cannot navigate. In a place dubbed the Sunshine State, perhaps the most important thing is not the sunlight shining on the white sandy beaches, but the light of justice and compassion that can reach every person in need of being seen and helped. When the dazzling curtain is gradually lifted, what will Florida do to prevent these people from becoming invisible ghosts amidst the indifferent flow of development? When we look at the homelessness crisis stretching from New York to Florida, from California to Texas, one thing is undeniable. This is not just an issue for one state, but a warning bell ringing for all of America. The shocking images that they don't want you to see are not just symbols of personal despair, but also mirrors reflecting the fractures in the system we live in. The American dream, once an unwavering belief, is being challenged by the soaring numbers of the homeless, rising living costs, and indifference from support policies. Can we continue to turn a blind eye and let these scenes become the new normal in daily life? Or is it time to open our hearts, ask questions, and seek real, sustainable solutions to change the fate of hundreds of thousands of Americans standing on the brink of life's collapse? That is the question each of us must ponder before it's too late. What do you think about the homelessness crisis in New York? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and stay updated with our latest videos. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video. Please note, the information in the video is compiled from public and reliable sources, aimed at analysis and providing a reference perspective. The video is not intended to incite, criticize individuals, or provide financial legal advice. Viewers should consider additional information before making a decision.